Welcome back to Pittsburgh Sports Now. I'm your host, George Michalowski, bringing on another very special guest today for the very first time, Pitt's strength and conditioning coach, Vince Williams. Coach, thanks for joining me today.
George, thanks for having me, man.
Of course, man. So we were talking a little bit before this. You came to Pitt last summer in July of 2022. You don't have to compare the facilities to the past ones you've seen, but how has it been at Pitt? What's life like as a strength and conditioning coach at Pitt?
It's been great. It's been great. Just having the full support of the administration, Coach Capel. As I was interviewing for the job, I was really impressed with the sheer amount of resources that we have here at Pitt. So that was definitely one of the factors that weighed heavily in my decision to come to Pitt when I was offered the position. I felt like it's definitely a place that we could have success based on my past experiences. So the time's been great. Obviously, we had a great year last year. I'm now just looking to continue forward with the success.
Some of those teams you've worked with in the past, the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA, the Wizards, their G League team, Coppin State, Maryland, Rhode Island, you've been around all these programs. What about the pro routine goes into your routine at Pitt? Like, how much of the routine that you're getting these guys through is coming from the professional ranks?
Absolutely. I would definitely say I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the University of Maryland, the 2 years that I spent there working in the Cal Tar. You just opened my eyes to a lot of things when it comes to basketball performance, not just purely strength and conditioning. So it started here for me, my time in Maryland and learning all of the nuances that go into a performance program at the collegiate level, from nutrition to sports science to training to conditioning and recovery and all of those things. So that opened my eyes to a lot of the stuff that we now do here at Pittsburgh. But also, it was only enhanced by my time in the NBA. So I'll definitely say my foundation started working under Kyle in Maryland. And then obviously when you get to the NBA, you see things and, some really high level experience and some really high level practitioners and athletes for that matter, guys who are really dialed in to the minute details. Especially in the pros over 82 game season, you got to have a really good routine to get you through that grind of the season. So I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of good experiences and work with some really high level people.
Yeah, man. And you talk about that experience in the NBA with those high level talents. You see guys like even on the Sixers, like Embiid, that guy's got to be the strongest dude, like one of the strongest guys in the league. Were there any, or I guess what was the most shocking either lift or workout that you have ever seen from an NBA guy?
In the weight room or on the court?
Yeah, in the weight room. In the weight room.
In the weight room? Ooh. Yeah. Joel's impressive. I'll leave it at that. Joel is really impressive, but all of those guys, honestly, Tyrese Maxey, Danny Green, Brad Beal, CJ Miles. That's my guy from back in my days with the Wizards. CJ Miles, Admiral Schofield. He's a machine.
He was a tank in college.
Yeah, he's a tank. Yeah, I've seen, like, I don't want to. I'm not. I've seen a lot of guys. I've seen a lot of impressive feats. That's why the best of the best, right? Like, you can't, like, a lot of times people will ask me. Obviously, they don't ask, about a Joel, but it's like I try to tell our guys, especially, is like they're what we call outliers. Like, it's not going to matter who they're working with. They are who they are. But there are a lot of the 85% of NBA guys is much more impressive. And to me, it's just their routine. Like, literally, they stick to their routine day in and day out. They don't deter from it whatsoever. So, there are some really elite guys out there for sure.
Man, yeah, I couldn't imagine Admiral Schofield in the weight room. That would be
Yeah.
fun to watch.
Yeah.
So there's obviously different types of basketball players. There's you got the twins and you got Blake, two very different builds with guys that you're working with at Pitt specifically. But I don't anticipate that anyone really is powerlifting, is putting up huge bench numbers, is doing crazy shoulder press, like deadlifting as much heavy. So what's it like? What's the balance like between lifting heavy, lifting light for a lot of reps and cardio? Like, what's your whole process like for different players here?
That's the fun part, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously, I'm fortunate enough I only had 15 guys, right? So it's like I'd be doing a disservice to them if I just put one workout on the board and just expect everyone to do the same thing. So, like, that's part of the planning process. That's part of coaching, is figuring out how you can get each guy better and meet them where they're at, right? So, like, obviously, Blake's goals were much different than the Twins' goals. Jalen's goals is much different than Will Jeffers' goals, So it's like dialing into each one of those things. And then I think the main thing, and that kind of leads me into what I was getting ready to say, but just keeping the main thing the main thing. Like, don't try to overcomplicate it. If a guy need to put on weight, that you kind of group them together. It's like, these are the weight gain guys. They all have very similar goals. Let's keep the main thing here. You establish a program, you get them on a program for that. These guys, we need to work on their composition a little bit. Okay, what's the main thing here? What are the big rocks that we tackle from their standpoint? Okay, cool. Then you got to have guys who are in the middle. Guys who are these are high level athletes too. They're ACC basketball players, right? Like we're trying to do something special here. So it's like then you have the guys in the middle, who need a combination of both, right? But always keeping the main thing. I think that's the key to success.
So I'm sure you're working on explosiveness with a lot of these guys. From the freshmen, like you said, Jalen, Carlton, Marlon, Papa, all these guys, but also the older guys. We see players like Nike last year. Everyone thinks explosive right away. Even looking at Zach Austin's tape from High Point, explosive's another word that comes to mind. You look at, Ja Morant in the NBA, 2011 D Rose, my favorite. So you see these guys that are described as explosive. Are those mostly God-given talents, or how much can you develop and become an explosive athlete?
God-given talent. God-given talent. Yeah, if anyone tells you, if I'd be lying to you if I told you I'm gonna have anything to do with, Zach Austin's explosiveness. No. I look at it this way. My job is to keep Zach Austin being Zach Austin for however many games we play this year. Same with Nike. Like, the guys who are who they are, and it's my job to understand who they are and how to keep them being who they are day in and day out. So it's not, we did this for Nike, it's no, Nike's Nike. How do we keep Nike being Nike? How do we keep Zach being Zach? How do we keep Blake being Blake? It's more that mindset. I wish I could. I wish I did have some magic tool to turn Guillermo into Nike, but that's just not how God made him. So just keep Guillermo. And it's like they obviously have their strengths, right? So it's just like Guillermo. He's a really adept passer. His feel for the game. So how do we keep him getting better at that, and then how we keep Nike?
So what's your game day routine look like? We see you stretching out all the guys before the game. You got the bands. You have this whole routine, which looks very organized before the game. Like, everyone knows exactly where they're supposed to be, who they're supposed to be with. But what's that whole process like? How early are you getting to the stadium? What's everything like on game day?
Game day. So let's say 7:00 game. We'll say 7:00 home game at Pitt. I'm probably getting to work around 12. And I'm gonna be here for a while, so I'm probably getting to work around 12. Depending on, obviously, we'll have shoot around 5 hours before, so that we can have pregame meal 4 hours before. So our shoot around will start 5 hours before film. We'll go right into whatever our court, whatever coach has planned for shoot around. Pregame meal starts at 4. Making sure guys are getting their meals in, hydration, whatever, supplements they need to take, all of those things. Then one of the things that was unique to us this past season, is we prep like an NBA team, right? So if the game starts at 7, guys are in the weight room with me starting around 5:00. So
Okay.
what we do is we have like small groups starting around, I don't remember the exact time, but we'll probably start around 4:45, 5 o'clock. And guys have a routine. They'll come in. One of my mentors, Todd Wright, he's the VP of performance for the Clippers. He has this routine called Melt, Mold, and Move. So basically, the melt is a soft tissue series, right? So you're coming in, they're getting on the table, they're foam rolling, they're hitting the power play, kind of getting their tissues acclimated, and starting the blood flow process. Then the mold routine, that's more of like a stretch routine. So we have, when I got here, we added tri-stretch pro stations. The guys love them. You guys, Nelly comes in now, like he's just home. He's home before he heads overseas. He'll just come in and get in the cage. We call it the cage. So he'll come in and get in the cage. So we'll start them. So they'll go from the melt to the mold, which is a cage series, addressing all their different structures so they don't have any restrictions. And then the move series is just getting ready for the game. Series of lunge patterns, squat patterns, getting everything acclimating, everything turned on. So when we head to the court, so we kind of stagger them out every 15 minutes. So it's only 3 to 4 guys at a time. They come in, they hit their routine. For a 7 o'clock game, we're on the floor at 60 minutes on the clock. Guard bigs first. So bigs first at 6 o'clock. Coach Brown, he'll take the guards. We'll flip-flop after 10 to 12 minutes. We'll flip-flop, then I'll warm the guards up. Then I'm headed back. I'll change, make sure our nutritionist, she's stationed to make sure the guys are getting their hydration, around the 30-minute mark and everything else to prepare for the game. And then from there, we tip off and ready to go at 7 o'clock.
Man, it's as detailed as it sounds like the pros are doing.
Absolutely.
I know a big thing right now, not even just in sports, but in recovery and in health, I guess I've seen on all these podcasts and everything, is cold and heat exposure. Are you guys
Yeah.
like, are you having your guys like jump in the ice bath every morning at 7 a.m.? Like, what are the benefits of that stuff? And do you guys do any of that?
So I forgot this part of the routine as well. So after the game, guys who play 15 minutes or more, they have a 8-minute cold exposure. So we have a cold tub, obviously, in the training room. So every guy who plays, it became a thing, right? So it's like after the game, I'll get the score sheet, and I'll look up, and I'll just call out the names, Nelly, Betty, Blake, Nike, and so then it became a game, right? So like Greg Elliott, that's my guy. There were a couple of occasions where I had to literally carry him to the cold tub. Like he hated the cold. I would literally put him on my shoulder and I would take him down to the cold tub. But again, it's part of the recovery process, right? So it's like, let's shut this thing down to get your system ready so you can go out and be Greg Elliott again, on Saturday, if it was a Wednesday game, so it's part of the process. We had fun with it, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, so that was our thing. So if you play 15 minutes or more, it'll be the same way this year. If you play 15 minutes or more, you get 8 minutes in the cold tub after the game. That's the reward.
Okay, I got it, man. Yeah, it's definitely a rewarding thing. I mean, I feel like I've tried it enough where it's like you get out, you're like, damn, this feels amazing. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a long season, right? Like those guys are playing, an inordinate amount of minutes. Especially for us last year. High intensity, high level basketball minutes was like, how do we get you to the end to be your best self at the end? There's things like cold exposure and, recovery day. We have, our massage therapists will come in, and it's the same way, guys who play high minutes, getting a massage after the game. So we take our recovery here pretty seriously.
And yeah, it's definitely, paid its dividends. I remember
Absolutely.
JB last year when I was doing a podcast with him, he loved, your whole process, and he loved everything you guys were doing. Yeah, he definitely took advantage of that. Seemed he made the most of it. all the baths, everything.
Yeah, like I would say like JB, he took like there was like a routine. Obviously, there's like the program that we had in place, and then like JB, he's such a high level guy. He had his own routine, and I was fortunate enough to kind of help mold him and kind of tweak things here and there for him to help him be his best self as well. So he definitely takes his body very seriously. And for me, like that was kind of our relationship too. Is like I take my craft very seriously. He takes his craft very seriously. So being able to work together, was a huge reward for both of us.
That's awesome. And so we'll wrap this up here with just a few more questions.
Okay,
Thanks again
sure.
for coming on, man. I really appreciate this.
Uh,
Just a few to wrap up. First, what was, if you can remember one moment, what would you say was the most electric, most hyped up time in the weight room at Pitt since you've been here?
Man.
Was it a lift? Was it someone maxing out? Was it, after a win?
Yeah.
What was the most hype moment you got in?
Man, there were a lot. It's hard to choose one, honestly. Our lifts are our lifts are really good. It's hard to pick one.
Hey, if you've got a couple, go ahead. Tell the stories.
Yeah. I would say this summer, seeing Jorge tip the scales at over 200 pounds. That was a huge moment. That was a huge moment. From where he's been, my gosh. Seeing that number on the scale for the first time was huge. Will, very, very impressive on the hang clean. Some of the numbers he's put up this summer have been impressive. Yeah, I would go with those two. Last season, this was more of a fun moment.
Yeah.
I remember we were in season, and so like typically in season it kind of works the same way. We kind of stagger our groups, and so I think it was like a Sunday. It was in season, and the Twins came in, and they're like, "Coach, can we turn on a soccer game?" Like if you know me. I'm like when you come in, there's no phones. We're not watching TV. Like we're here to work. And they come and like you can see like they really. I was just like, what are you talking about? They're like, no, it's the it's the FIBA game. Like I don't know if it's FIBA.
It was the World Cup. It was the World Cup. I remember they
World Cup. Yeah. So I was just like, what are you talking? They're like, no, coach. Like, can we please? I was just like, go ahead, man. Like, go. Like, so we turned the TV on, and then like it went to penalty kicks, and like, so like obviously the weight room is right across from the locker room. So the locker room TVs had the World Cup on, and we had the World Cup on in the weight room. So that was a great moment as well. And they were celebrating. They were celebrating. I forgot who won. I don't even think it was Spain that won.
Yeah,
they were
I
all
don't
big
think it was either.
Yeah, but like that was like a moment. Like I know for me, that's probably the only time I've ever watched a soccer game while guys are training. So but that was more of a fun moment. So yeah.
So I know it's all work in there, but do you guys have music playing? Like what kind of music too is usually on in there?
Yeah, we have our assigned DJs. So yeah, we have our I'll just say that we have our assigned DJs. And it gets, I'm not old, but I'm not young either. I'm 30. I'll be 34 in September. So some of the stuff. Some days I DJ. I'm like, man, I can't do what y'all listen to. I'm gonna do my own thing today. But there's an interesting mix, especially having the Twins. One day it can be Bad Bunny. Another day it can be Jay-Z. It's an interesting mix for sure.
What's your choice? If you get the aux, what's your choice on the music?
If I have the aux, I'm probably going. If this for workout, I'm probably going Jeezy. I'm probably going Jeezy for sure.
Okay, there you go, man. So, I guess to wrap it up, if you could have, I know you mentioned some of the NBA guys you've worked with earlier, but if you could train with or train yourself, any player in any sport at any level ever, who would you want to train with or at least be around while he's training the most, or she?
Jordan, easy.
Jordan. Okay.
Yeah, for me. He's kind of not. He wasn't the guy, but like obviously athletes train before Jordan, but like just to see his process and how meticulous he is. To me, it's not it's not like what I can give to Jordan, is seeing his own process,
Right.
and just seeing how meticulous he is. Jordan, Kobe, those guys, to see their process. I think that would be really cool for me.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Vince, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate all the answers all the time. This is a blast, and good luck rest of this summer. Good luck on the overseas trip here coming up. Sure,
Appreciate it. Thanks,
a lot
George.
of fun for you guys. Yeah, man. All right. Thank you guys for
All
tuning in.
right.